Welcome back to The Sacred Life. I'm Shan Vanderleek, and today I'll be speaking with Julia Treat. Julia is a good friend. She's also a psychic medium, angel intuitive, past life regression therapist, mentor, author, and popular podcaster. 5 years ago, Julia published her first book, Stepping into the Light, and launched her podcast with the same name, and that's how we met. I worked with her on that launch, and we're excited to share that her podcast is approaching 1 million downloads. Julia is living proof that when we do deep diving work and heal our wounds, we'll eventually find the light that's always been inside. Welcome to This Sacred Life, Julia.
Thank you, Shan. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here today. You know, your story is so fascinating, and because I've had the pleasure and honor of knowing you over the last 5 years, I know a lot about your story. And one of the reasons why I invited you today is I wanted to talk about self-care during these times. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Ascension. A lot of our listeners are hearing about it, might not really know what that's all about. And then it was very clear to me that we were meant to also have a conversation about Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is somebody we have in common, that we hear from a lot, who's around us a lot, and I thought we could weave that in as well. But why don't we get started with a little bit more of an introduction by you to our listeners?
Absolutely, yes. And I love all the topics that we're going to cover today. So I was raised a Baptist minister's kid, a Baptist minister's daughter, and I was not taught a lot about either mediumship or connecting with angels or anything like that. So I was gliding through life. I'm a speech language pathologist, have a master's degree in that, and had a booming private practice. Then everything in my life, it seemed all at once, began to spiral downward. My health started plummeting. My marriage was imploding. I was forced to close my private practice because I was too sick to work. And I came to a point where everything in my life literally stopped. And I know now, in hindsight, that I had to get really quiet so that I could finally, connect with God or hear God and whatever God is for your listeners, whether it's source energy or creator, goddess. And that's when things started becoming very interesting for me. I first was introduced to angels. I just saw this little angel on a placemat, and it said angel classes, and I was at my rock bottom. And I was like, I have to be there. I don't know why, but I need to be at this class. And that was kind of the start of it all. I got to know a lot about angels and archangels, and that they had specialties, and that we could connect with them and work with them, and they could really make our life a lot easier. So I was soaring along with the angels and learning as much as I could. And a friend of mine, a very dear friend, who was like a second mom to me, she became very ill and was given just, I think it was like a few days to live. She really had ignored a lot of the signs and refused to go to the doctor. It ended up being some kind of cancer that was past, anything they could do for her. And so I would visit her in the hospital and each day go home and kind of do some yard work. And on I think the third day, I was raking my yard, and I was just like, angels, go be with Jean. I know she's scared. Just help her know that she's not alone and that everything's going to be wonderful. And at that moment, it was like a movie went off in my head, and I could see and feel and hear heaven. I just started crying because it was such a beautiful feeling, just all the love. And that is when I broke wide open into my abilities.
Wow. That's so very, very powerful. And you are incredibly talented, having worked with you over the years. I know this to be true because I've had the experience. And for those of you who are just meeting Julia for the first time, she is a dynamo. My goodness, if you visit her website, you will see so many different beautiful offerings and teachings. And there's just so many wonderful things for free and for investment, of course. And she's just been like, ever since the light switch, ever since things opened up, it's been a real pleasure to watch this all unfold for you.
Yeah, and you've been right there on the forefront with me because, we crossed paths when I was launching my book, And I wrote about my experience in my book, all of my experiences, and not even knowing at the time that I broke wide open to my abilities, that would lead to connecting with some of the ascended masters, which Kuan Yin being one of them.
Hmm.
And then eventually channeling this group of children that are Christ consciousness energy, this pure love that are coming to shift this planet, to help shift it back into love. So a lot of times, moving through the doors that are opening, even when we don't understand what that exactly means,
Yeah, sure.
and that we just keep walking through them, and our path will unfold.
Let's talk a little bit about, with your talents and gifts. It seems to me that you often are aware and open to things that are happening in this world uh, sooner than others. It's not to say that you're exempt from what's going on, but having produced your podcast and listen in, and I always feel like you're on the leading edge of what's next and how to care for ourselves. And right now, during these times, that whether you believe they're challenging or not, there's a great percentage of the population that is challenged and is feeling unsettled. And I'm just wondering what you would say to these folks to help them ground and settle in a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, I think this is a great topic, especially because my podcast, I reach people all over the world, and I do hear from several people from around the globe, and everyone is experiencing different things right now. There's some that are on complete lockdown, and and some that are, there's just so many different things going on. And we're recording this at the time of, this election, where they're just trying to comb through all the things happening. And so one thing the angels helped me learn a long time ago, well, a couple of things. One was, I actually was very ill. I had a mystery illness. They didn't diagnose me for 8 years. No one could figure out what was wrong with me, but it ended up being Lyme disease. Now, I healed myself from Lyme disease without medication, but I did it with the angels' help, because they showed me what I needed to work on or heal within myself, because it was all about, letting go of the lower vibrational feelings or emotions, and because that would help me shift into a higher vibration. So I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that, because that's where Kuan Yin comes in as well. So the first thing they started pointing out was, all right, you need to look at all the things that you feel guilty about, that you feel ashamed of. I mean, growing up a PK isn't easy. I mean, we
Right.
all have our stories, but there were always eyes on me. That I was supposed to behave a certain way, or whatever the case may be. So I had to start doing this deep diving work. That's what I call it, where, oh, yes, I feel guilty about that. And that is not serving me in any way right now, because that is in the past. They started showing me all the things from my past that I had held on to, that were keeping me stuck in this vibration of, for me, it was complete self-loathing. I
Mm.
literally hated myself. I didn't realize I did, but I did. And I had a smile on my face while I was literally, beating myself up every day. So Kuan Yin, I wish I could remember the moment I connected with Kuan Yin. I don't recall the exact moment, but I started going to these retreats in Sedona, and I would go, shop in different shops, and there were so many statues of Kuan Yin. I was always drawn to this one in this one store. Every year I went to retreat, she was there. Well, one year I purchased it. I purchased that statue.
Mm.
And I said, you need to come home with me. I am so close to you. I feel your love. And Kuan Yin is like Mother Mary is to, that mother nurturing, loving energy.
The first time I had an experience with Kuan Yin, uh, there was actually the scent of orange blossoms and this warm, beautiful um, feeling is all I can say. Is like I was overcome with knowing that I was in her presence and being able to smell the orange blossoms.
Oh, I
And this
love
is years ago. This is probably before I met you, and I thought that I was just nuts. Like I haven't told anyone this
that.
until right now.
Yay.
and she's
We could
and
be
she's
nuts together then.
Yeah, right. And she's been around a big part of my life since then and for years. And so so back to your story, but I had to interject and
No, I'm glad you said that, because maybe someone is either had that experience as well, or they'll have that now.
yeah, right.
because as we share, then it just reminds everyone's soul what's possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I purchased this statue, and we actually use it at the retreat. She would be in the center of everything we did, in the center of the circle. And I wrapped her up to bring her home on the plane, and we were being really careful. I literally had her wrapped up and carrying like a baby around this airport, and everyone's being very careful, taking turns with her, helping me carry her. She wasn't heavy or anything. I think they just didn't want to let go of her. And took the flight home, and coming into where I live in Northeast Pennsylvania, you have to take smaller airplanes. And so I had to put her in this overhead, and it was so bumpy because I live in the mountains, and it gets really bumpy on landing a lot of times. And I heard her bouncing around above my head.
Mm.
So when I landed, got off my things, went home, I immediately unwrapped her, took her out, and her bonnet or her hair, kind of looks like a headpiece, was chipped. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I cannot believe that this happened to you. Oh my, I was apologizing. And
Yeah.
she just came in and she said, Julia, do you see me any different because of this chip? And I was like, no. And she said, this is how we see you.
That's so beautiful. That's so powerful. And to
So,
know that that energy is available to all of us, that she is available to us, especially right now. I mean, we need that kind of nurturing support, unconditional love right now.
well, and that's what she taught me. I had to love myself that much.
Hmm.
And so she and the angels, I worked with them for years on loving myself, seeing myself as beautiful as they did, which when you have compassion for yourself, it's much easier to have compassion for others. And, the other thing that Kuan Yin worked really closely with me on is stepping away from reaction, because we've been programmed to react. And so anything we see, we have to have a reaction of some kind, because we've kind of just, society kind of created that within us maybe.
Sure.
And so in my whole metamorphosis of healing myself, that was another point that she brought up is, okay, you're going to start viewing things like I'm sitting right next to you, and we're going to work on this non-reaction. Now, those aren't the words she used, but
Right.
it literally, I would imagine we're sitting there together and we're watching something, and I would think, you know, what she would be doing with this, which is just loving, because
Yeah.
she only loves. That's all that's all she can do. She loves everyone, and so she really has helped me so much with stepping back from reaction, because we are taught react, attack. That's kind of like what I think so many people are starting to understand now is going on.
Yeah. It's like a movie. Look at it. It's really incredible to see
Yeah, I've quit
how
watching
it
the movie.
plays out. It's like, okay, I like that you've stopped watching the movie. I'm watching less and less of the movie.
Mhm.
Well, but it's just something. I had a experience recently with a family member, and it became so clear to me that I was in a completely different world, and I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about a completely different world where I'm seeing choice and beauty and opportunity, and even on the tough days, even on the challenging days, and I've had quite a few of those recently, to know that there's always something else possible, and that there are miracles that are happening every single day, and to have a conversation with somebody who is just absolutely certain that everything sucks. Like putting this warm blanket of, shit over your shoulders, and that's how you want to live. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. I just
Well, and this is Ascension at its finest right now too. So it is, you can, we're starting to see that separation,
yeah.
and I'm from third dimensional to fifth dimensional. I mean, that's what Ascension's all about. It is raising your vibration to this higher state of being. So it's our physical body. We've always been this vibrant light, this high vibrational being, but we've been in this very confining third dimensional physical body. And so what's happening is our body is now shifting into that higher vibration to where we can recognize ourself, our true soul self easier. We are, and as Wayne Dyer used to say, if any of your listeners ever listened to him or read his books, what he always said was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so, as you said, you see possibilities, you see beauty. That's what I'm experiencing every day.
Yeah.
And I do have compassion for those that haven't quite gotten that yet, or understood that, oh, wait a minute, maybe if I do shift something within me, even my thought process, maybe things could change. I mean, that's kind of sounds simplistic, but
Yeah, well, but the thing is it doesn't have to be challenging. I mean, it really is simple if we let it be simple.
mhm.
Uh, for instance, something as simple as taking a break, and I'm not talking to you, Julia, because I know you don't watch the news, but uh, taking a break from the news, taking a
Oh yes,
break, taking a break from the gloom and doom and destruction and the fear and the attachment to feeling like you have to be plugged into that nonsense.
yeah, and
I promise you, if you were to take a break just for a week,
mhm.
oh my goodness, things would shift.
Yeah, I always say, if it's, no matter what it is, if it's bad enough, someone's going to tell you. You don't have to be watching the news.
Exactly.
Someone's
You don't
going
have
to
to be
let
on the
you
front
know.
lines and hear the same story 13 times, right? And
Yeah, and
it's not good for our subconscious either.
right, and especially in ascension process right now, it's really important that we do eliminate as much negativity as possible, because see, we are breaking those habits and those programs. We're breaking those. We have to break those to get into the higher dimensional being existence.
And
Uh,
what are some of the symptoms that we can have in our bodies during this ascension time?
yeah, and I love that question, because there's a lot of people reaching out to me, and there's a lot of, it's actually called Ascension flu, and
Really?
yes, it's called Ascension flu, and there are many different symptoms. So Ascension flu can feel just like regular flu, or it can even actually seem a little worse. But a lot of people, let's forget the whole flu word, and just, I'll give you some symptoms of your, I'm going to say, your awakening. Actually, I do like to call it the awakening. It's the grand awakening. That's what's happening right now. So headaches are big with a lot of people. Eyes that go in and out of focus. It might be one day this eye is like, wow, it's really blurry today, or I feel pressure behind it. You may have ringing in your ears, or even liquid leaking from your ears. You can have neck pain. Now, this is going to cover everything: neck pain, back pain, um, heart palpitations, anxiety. I'm going down the list here. And these do, by the way, eventually stop happening. Okay,
Right.
so with this ascension, we're actually getting these light codes, these rainbow waves. They show up on camera a lot for me when I'm talking, actually, when I do videos. We're receiving all of this energy coming into the planet to help the planet raise to higher vibration. And it's coming in waves so that we have time to acclimate before the next wave comes. But it is for us. It's helping us. But it sometimes doesn't feel like it's helping us.
Have you also found in your experience that the folks that you're working with, or maybe even yourself, have old chronic pains or things that they thought were behind them come forward for the first time, and like, wait, I thought I was done with that, and then there it is again?
I have been hearing about this, yes. Now, I also believe some that can often be tied to a past life. If we have an injury or something in a past life, it can actually recur in another lifetime. Like if I'm going to say, had an accident, we fell on our head somewhere, or we were speared, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. It can show up as a physical thing, and then through past life regression, what we do is you go back to that time and examine what happened and what needed to be forgiven or loved, or whatever needed to be healed, and then it actually heals you physically in this lifetime. It transcends across all dimensions and timelines.
So powerful.
It really is. Yeah, I'm just amazed at where that little angel on a placemat in the diner, where this led me to.
Well, and it seems to me like that during this ascension time, during the Great Awakening, that past life regression would be a really good thing to do as you're navigating through everything. Because I know from my own experience, I'm like, okay, I understand what's happening here, but now I need to just kind of gently pull it apart so that I can get a handle on, what's what. Is this mine? Because that's always my first question. Is this even mine?
Mhm. Mhm.
But then to know, oh, maybe this is something that can be cleared through past life regression, or maybe this is something where I just need to go see my chiropractor right now, or a combination thereof, right?
Right, and that's a good thing because I go to the chiropractor weekly, and with Ascension, it could be the Ascension process, and we need this adjustment to help our energy flow, or it could be something where, just for my own example, I had a lump show up on my chest and one on my back, and they were in the same spot, just one on front, one on back. Now, for me, I always do past life regression before I go to a doctor because I want to
Hmm.
first see, is this something that I have carried over? Sure enough, I was a lifetime where I was speared by someone I trusted. And interestingly enough, it was going on at the same time. These lumps showed up the same time that a young man who I had mentored for a very long time suddenly started telling people that my book was all false, that none of it was true. He wasn't even there when I wrote it.
Oh,
But oh,
wow.
it was the whole stabbed in the back.
Sure.
And guess what? He was the one that did it in that lifetime.
Oh, that's really fascinating, isn't it?
And so when I discovered that, the lumps went away on their own.
Wow, that's so powerful.
So that's just one of my examples, but I've witnessed so many clients where they experience miracles just by understanding what happened.
Sure, sure. So let's get back to the self-care piece.
Yes.
What are you doing? I know you take a lot of hot salt baths, and so do I. It's like my go-to. What else are you doing to support your mind, body, and soul through ascension, and to shield and ground during this time?
Well, I have a lot of good little tips and tricks that are easy to start doing. Number one, years ago, I stopped wearing any kind of device on my body, including a watch. That actually will mess with our own rhythm. And so, if not even having anything, don't put a phone in your pocket. Ladies, don't tuck it in your bra. I know ladies that do that,
Yeah.
but having any kind of device on your body, including a watch. I drink tons of very clean filtered water with organic lemon juice in it. That is very good for just energy flow, but also cleansing your kidneys. I do hot yoga. I do Bikram yoga for 15 years now. And because of this whole pandemic thing, I created my own hot room in my house. So I actually just do it at home now. And I feel like I'm doing yoga with God. It's just me.
That's neat.
The Epsom salt baths, I love those. And there's so many different types that you can get with different scents and different oils now. Those are so important for not only self-care, but this ascension time right now. My phone is not on. I do not hear it ring. I do not hear dings all day. So I turn off notifications. It's kind of things to just calm your brain
Yeah.
because we have to calm this machine that's been running things for far too long.
Right. And there's so many distractions, and by avoiding and eliminating, and it really does make a difference. I'll just leave my phone in a completely different room, so that, because it's just too easy to fall down the rabbit hole and scroll and look at pictures, or
Yeah.
go and read about something, and then you're on to something else, and it's like, wait, 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 wait. I I I don't I'd rather go outside, or I'd rather listen to some music, or I'd rather do something else where I'm not, and it's, man, it's addicting, right? So we know this,
Yeah.
and to be able to say, wait, this technology piece, and I love that you brought up the watch thing. As soon as
Mhm.
I left 14 years ago, it's like my anniversary of leaving corporate America 14 years ago, I took my watch off and I never put it back on. And it
Yeah.
wasn't, I can't even tell you why, other than I knew that I would never wear a watch again. And so now that you bring that up, I think, oh, well, that's in alignment with some other things as well now, isn't it?
Yeah, and even now people have phones on their wrist. I'm like, no.
Oh,
And then
take it
they wonder
off.
why they have anxiety or they need to take things to calm down or
Yeah.
or depression even. It just really messes with us. One of my days, I have this program called Spiritual Boot Camp. I just thought of it. One of the things that I teach one day is that I take them through this routine of, okay, anytime you see something or hear something, this is the new rule. And you have to start a new habit, right? So it's just, you take a breath and you say, isn't that interesting? And it's going to feel really strange at first because you're so used to having a reaction to something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a breath and you start just retraining your brain, isn't that interesting? That actually removes you from that reactive state immediately.
It does, and it's real similar to the work that I do with access consciousness, and that uh, verbiage is interesting point of view.
Right? See, right? I just say, isn't
Interesting
that
point of view. I have that point of
interesting?
view. So say
Same
yes, very
concept.
similar. It's so powerful.
And these are the things that, like I said, Kuan Yin and the angels and the masters, they came in to start helping me learn, because in order for me, I had to change me. I had to love me and do all this so that I could show others how to do it as well, or
Mhm.
whoever needed it. That's why
Well,
we go through these things and we learn, because we're here to teach others. Hey, I always say, if I can do it, anybody can.
yeah, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about you is you keep it real.
Mm.
There are times that the things that you share can make people blush even. And it's so refreshing
Yeah.
because you've come to that space of knowing that here I am and this is what I'm here to do and there's no stopping me because I got this and I'm totally supported. And even on your days when you're not doing great, you're still taking the teaching from it. You're still, what's the lesson here? And okay, angels, what can I do with this? Or how do I use this? How do I use this in my teaching? So really, really awesome to witness your progression.
Well, and you have, because my kickoff interview, you helped me launch my podcast. I'm eternally grateful for you. You know that. And the kickoff interview, I had a complete meltdown and we had to stop. So, even testament that people think, oh, look, she's got all her shit together. Look at her, she's soaring. Well, I had to bust through a lot of things that scared me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always leaping out of my comfort zone. I get bored very quick in a comfort zone.
Well, and you've always showed so much courage. And, even when we go back 5 years ago to that day when we were just like, you know what? Take a breath, take some time.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it. We'll jump back in and all is well. And that was my moment of bringing Kuan Yin forward for you.
Yes, and I want to say the way that you handled that, because you said, all right, let's just end the call and you call me when you're ready. That is so important. Even when I take people on retreats, I take people to retreats, in Greece and Sedona now. And I say, we go around a circle and I say, if someone is having their moment and they're having a breakthrough and they're crying, please refrain from hugging them or handing them a tissue, because you actually stop that flow from coming out.
Yes.
And so when you did that, that was genius and exactly what I needed. And yes, the guides were guiding you, I'm sure.
Oh, Julia. So we've talked a little bit about ascension. We've talked about our love of Kuan Yin and messages that come through self-care. What would you like to leave everybody with today is a message for, the overall umbrella of care and sweetness?
I think right now is just such an important time that you really honor yourself in saying no to what you no longer want to do, that you don't have to return every phone call, that you don't have to carry anyone anymore, that it really is about going within right now and finding what it is within you. What is it I love about me? Because when we move into that space of pure unconditional love for ourselves, that is what we will begin to attract into our life.
Hmm. Here, here. And I know you have a number of different offerings always available, but let's pick one that you'd like to focus on to invite the Sacred Life listeners to check into.
I do. One of my favorites is probably my most popular course. It's just a do it at home yourself, 28 days. It's called Spiritual Boot Camp. And it's each day I'm giving you a little golden nugget that my guides and angels and Kuan Yin gave me on my journey into really discovering who I truly was and what was getting in the way of all of that. And it's originally $555. It's only $47. I wanted to price it so that anyone could get it. And people, I mean, they say it's changing their lives every single day. They love it. You can get on my website, juliatreat.com. Just go to courses and you'll see spiritual boot camp.
And I remember when you launched that as well.
Yes.
So it's very cool. Very, very, very great place to start with Julia. Of course, listening to her podcast as well, Stepping into the Light. Julia, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing a little bit about you and how you're rocking your world right now.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here. And I hope that I shared something that might help your listeners. I hope and pray that's something that helps them light their path. Thank you for having me.
That was Julia Treat, psychic medium, angel intuitive, past life regression therapist, mentor, author, and podcaster. You can learn more about Julia and her offerings at juliatreat.com.